Yeah.
I would imagine he would be aware of it.
Listen to each other's selections of jazz.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian. I'm Diane's brother. Thank you so much for coming. It's really wonderful to see everybody here today. Thank you, Mark. That was really beautiful. Yeah. And you're gonna come on in. Oh, okay. Okay. Who are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lucas. I am Diane's nephew.
Diane's. So I'm going to read a poem. There's 3 poems today, and these were all picked by Diane. She didn't trust us to do this correctly, so during her final week, she made sure that everything was in place. So everything that's going on today is by Diane's design, okay? So one thing I want to do, one reason I want to bring Lucas up here is because of all of you, okay? So I wanted him to see you, right? And I wanted you to remember, okay, all the lives that your tia touched, okay? Just keep that with you, because there's actually more. There's more than you see right here. There's people in Guatemala, there's people in California, New York, all over the world. So if you can live a life where you touch this many people, that's a good life, okay? All right. You want to say bye?
Bye.
You want to stay or you want to go? Stay, okay. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Okay? All right. All right.
Hello again, welcome. My name is Summer Sobin, and I am honored to serve as a sort of MC. First, I'd like to honor the keepers of the land, the bands of the Saponi, the Okanichi, also the Shikori, and the other original peoples that I'm not naming of this land, for again, the blessing that Julia has already invoked, and the gratitude to be able to be on these lands, to live, to die, to grieve, to grow. When we come together in this way to celebrate the life of Diane, I have an image of walking around a rare, multifaceted gemstone. And we've each known her in different ways, at different times, and see a different face, a different aspect of her unique light. And as we hear the stories and the memories, we get to know her more. For those who were here for the dance, we got to meet her essence, her force. That's very much still part of the great continuum of life. I have had the pleasure of knowing Diane as a fellow seeker, as someone who has been coming and practicing yoga alongside me in meditation, my husband, our community, for well over 15 years. I tried to add it up. I'm not good with numbers, but it hit around that mark. And I'm so glad. I had no idea how genius she was until about 5 years in, because I would have been very intimidated. But what I have experienced of her that I walk with, will continue to walk with, is to always be a student. Her curiosity and wonder, and her hunger for growth. On the innermost mystical planes, I knew the mystical side of Diane, and we would have deep conversations of beautiful, irreverent, sacred comedy blended with the depths. And she would always follow up with some sort of incredible article or research that she would share, and we would discuss. So, like everyone here, I am grateful to know her and continue to know her in new ways. So today we walk around and we admire this beautiful gem of the light of Diane, who weaves all of us together. And I'm going to read her biography here, and I want to ask forgiveness in the beginning if I mispronounce anything, anyone's name or so on. Diane Michelle Nelson was born in Oxford, Ohio, to Donald N. and Louis E. Nelson. She was a bookworm, horse lover, poet, campfire girl, director of backyard plays, and outstanding soprano. She performed in the high school orchestra and show choir, starred as Daisy May and Lil Abner, and was member of the debate team and honor society. In 1980, Diane began her lifelong relationship with Latin America as an AFS exchange student in Merida, Mexico. As a National Merit Scholar at Wellesley, she discovered her passion for cultural anthropology and met her mentor, Beatriz Mons, who inspired the research on Guatemala that Diane would pursue for over 4 decades. Diane began researching conditions in post-Civil War Guatemala in 1985, driven by her commitment to oppose the militarization and U.S. interference in Guatemala, and to bear witness to the struggles of the Guatemalan peoples. Amidst her trips between Boston and Guatemala, Diane met Mark Driscoll, then a Boston musician and activist. Mark and Diane began the greatest love of their lives in a partnership that would last for 35 years. As a PhD student in anthropology at Stanford, she continued her focus on indigenous Guatemalan life, worlds, and politics. Diane joined the anthropology faculty at Lewis and Clark in 1996. A life-changing inspiration to many students, she was named Oregon College Teacher of the Year in 1998. The following year, her brilliant first ethnography, A Finger in the Wound, was published. Diane moved to Duke in 2001, built a GLOCAL, community of activists, scholars, and students, and published many articles and 2 more groundbreaking books on Guatemala, Reckoning and Who Counts. Always eclectic and multi-talented, Diane practiced yoga and earned a black belt in Taekwondo. A longtime social justice activist in many movements, Diane fought for reproductive rights, supported Occupy, was arrested twice on Moral Mondays, and led the Red Rebels as part of Extinction Rebellion. Passionate about the environment, Diane loved keeping bees and playing outdoors, especially with her nephews, Ben and Lucas. Her last project, Riparian Worlding, Mayan Life in Anti-Extractivism, focuses on political ecology, river ecosystems, and indigenous knowledge. Diane received the cancer diagnosis with the exceptional grace and selflessness that she brought to all of her life. She gave us the gift of her beautiful smile all the way until the end. Diane is survived by her partner, Mark Driscoll, her parents, Lewis Nelson and Donald and Judith Nelson, her sister, Erica Nelson, brothers Brian Nelson and Philip Nelson, also with 16 nephews and 4 nieces. I'd like to call up Erica Nelson, Diane's sister, with an offering.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes, I am Diane Nelson's little sister. Something that used to make me really angry to be called, but I'm quite proud of that at the moment. I just wanted to thank everybody on behalf of our family for being here. I think the stories that we've been telling make us all realize that we just knew a little slice of Diane. And between the Caring Bridge and just being with some of you, her best companions the last couple of days, it's amazing how we can begin to weave the whole story together just from hearing from all of you. It's meant so much to my parents. I want to call out to those in particular because they can't be here today, and also our brother Philip in Japan. Means everything to us that you are able to remember her, and that this is actually just the beginning of bringing her life forward and making sure that her voice is heard. I have a little funny story to tell about this dancing. This is the first time I've smiled in a very long time, so I want to thank Julia for the dancing today. I do remember being here in Durham once, and we were supposed to get ready for a dance party at Randy Love's house. And I said, well, what do you think of the outfit? And she said, I don't know, can you dance in it? And that was pretty much the criteria for anything. And I, of course, thought I could dance in anything, but she had another idea. She did send me, for some reason, this reading last October. She randomly sent me this email, thought you would enjoy this. And I thought it was a little bit sad, and shared it with some friends, and we talked about it, and assumed that she was kind of referring to the line in the reading about preparing for the loss of our parents, because as you know, we've been taking care of my mother for quite a few years, and we're preparing for that. Looking back now, I wonder if she was trying to also prepare me, because she had started getting her symptoms right around that time, and perhaps had a sense, as she always does, she's smarter than everybody else, that this might be something that she couldn't beat. So she was asking me, I think, to prepare for a world without her in it, which was an absolutely impossible thing to imagine. This is called Perhaps the World Ends Here by Joe Harjo. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and so it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it, babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it, we make women. At this table we gossip, recall our enemies and the ghosts of our lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put our arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor, falling down selves as we put ourselves back together again at the table. The table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror and a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We've given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating the last sweet bite.
Catherine Williams.
Hi, everybody. What a glorious day. Can you feel our girl dancing around us in this wind and in this breath? It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here to raise up and celebrate the spirit of this incredible, incredible divine human being, this divine woman, Diane Nelson. When I was invited to come up with some remarks, I immediately went to meeting Diane in our neighborhood. We're neighbors. I live on Roberson Place, and I've been there about 25 years. And there's a small group of women. When we first moved there, we began a women's club on Roberson Place. And sometimes people would ask us, like, do you read books or do you have political discussions? And I said, no, our club is the Sweet Bay Ladies Drinking Club. And we do all those things, but we have a little cocktail. We have a little fun while we're doing it. And so for my sister, for my friend, for my neighbor, for my colleague, for my heart, I reached out to our group of women, right? I called up Anne, and I called Rachel, and Emily, and Beverly, and Judy, and I said, well, what should we say? How can we talk about our time with her? And Diane was a member with us for about 20 years, for the years that she was on Roberson Place. And I remember when Emily reminded me that when our kids were little, because we've been having these meetings a long time, y'all, we got through a lot of stuff together with these meetings at the table. At the table, right? Thank you, Erica, for that. And my little boy used to call it, oh yeah, your women's empowerment group. I'm like, yes, with a little Pinot to go along with it. So she was a beloved member of our group. And we started thinking about all of the times that we had together. It's way too much to go into every single detail, but I will bring up a couple of things that with her and with this group at Roberson Place, we talked about everything in our lives, our trials, our traumas, our children, our families, our work, our hopes, our dreams, politics, activism. We really held each other up, and we tried to meet as often as possible. And whenever we fell off a little bit, Diane was the one who would bring us back. And Diane has that special gift where she reaches out, right? And she connects people from all across the world. And she really held us to remembering that what we had and these meetings were special. And she wouldn't let it go. And we'd all be like, I got this to do, I got that to do, I can't. She says, great, well, when can we do it? Well, what Saturday? Well, what day? Well, what time? When we meeting? What are you bringing? And her commitment to holding us together and to keeping us to be clear about and intentional about the value of our time together as women was so, so important to her. And she was really the one who just pulled us all together. Rachel reminded me of that. You know, it was a little club, and so we were reminded of sometime, I don't know, we get inspired and have these like really creative cocktails, right? And you know, Diane didn't really drink very, very much, but after I guess some tropical storm, we all decided to make hurricanes. And if you've ever had a hurricane, it's a little bit like Kool-Aid, but it packs a punch. And that was probably the only time that we all remember seeing Diane get a little bit on the tipsy side. But one of the things that Diane would always do, because she always cared so much about each of us, is she would always make sure that there was a little something on your plate or a little something in your glass as she asked you about your life. Because she knew she was so open-hearted, big-hearted, heart forward about what you were doing, what you were thinking, what you were needing, and then she always would weave the picture together into the bigger issues of the day or the bigger issues that we had in our lives. I mean, between us in those 20 years, we graduated about 10 kids from elementary school, high school, sent them off to college. Some of them are getting married. I mean, we went through a lot, as you know, when you have these long, long, long relationships, right, with your women friends. So she always had us talking about ourselves. She always reached out, and she always just made sure that when Diane talked to you, you felt like you were the only person in the world, and that what you were saying was the most important thing. After several years of not being together, last Christmas, not being in person, we had a few meetings during the COVID when we would meet outside, but we finally had a chance to get back together in person, and it was decided Diane wanted to go to see our neighbor Anne's Christmas decorations. Anne's Christmas decorations are notorious. They're beautiful and incredible and elaborate. And of course, this year she had made Narnia in her living room. Yes, indeed, I have pictures. And Diane was just fascinated by it. She was determined to get us all together. We called our neighbor Randy, who came and joined us. We all sat around in Narnia with snow on the ground and just talking and catching up. And then we all trooped across the street to see Randy's Christmas tree. And with Mark, who joined us, and we all stood and admired Randy's beautiful tree. And Randy said, you know, sometimes there's so many ornaments on his tree. He said, sometimes people lie down and they look up from the bottom. So immediately, Anne and I and Diane got down, and I remember laying there on the floor with her as she looked up at all these wonderful, beautiful ornaments that Randy had put on the tree, and just seemed to see like beyond the tree and beyond the roof and out into the sky. And she just so deeply appreciated it and just stayed there. One thing about Diane, she was always present with you. She was always there moment to moment. She didn't rush, right? This beautiful woman, this scholar, this activist, this teacher, this mentor, this professor, this friend, this sister, this wife, this daughter, is not here physically with us, but I know that she is still here with us in the spirit. One of our last meetings that we had was right before she started her chemo treatment. And she and I and Anne met together. And she said, Anne, Kathy, I really have one thing I want to do. I want to go to Mapleview. She said, they told me that some of the medicines might make cold items taste metallic and sharp. It'd be very uncomfortable. I won't want to eat anything cold. So I want to go and get one more ice cream. So we got in the car and we drove out to Mapleview, and she tried to order, they didn't have her banana pudding ice cream, but Anne in her intrepid way said, well, they have vanilla wafers, they have banana ice cream, let's just make it happen. So we made it happen. And the three of us sat on the hill, and it was February, and the sun was shining, and we just ate ice cream and talked, and we held space for her in that moment, as she had so held space for all of us, and continues to do that, to let her know that we're there, don't be afraid, we'll stand with you, we'll do whatever you need, and we'll always, always be there for you. And I will just end with this last note. Our final meeting was a Zoom meeting. Diane was in the hospital, and as 5 of us sat scrunched on the couch, all trying to crowd around the computer so we could see her, again, she was still reaching out and asking about our work and our lives and our children. And she would not let us turn the attention to her. She was just getting through day by day, talking to the nurse, putting us on mute while they worked with the IV. But she gave so deeply and so much all the time. And so on this beautiful Sunday, I lift her spirit up. I challenge us to lead with love and kindness, curiosity, stay in the fight, stay in the fight. Don't make her come back here, okay? Keep up with what we gotta do, keep the good work. And Diane, know that we love you very, very much. Thank you. Jason?
Hi everyone, I'm Jason. I'm a student of Diane's. She was my PhD advisor. She shepherded me, as she did many others, through the long and arduous process of writing a dissertation. Mark asked me to share some words about Diane as a mentor, Diane as a teacher. And for those of you who don't know her in this capacity, I don't think it'll come as a surprise to anyone that she was extraordinarily generous, and that students in our department gravitated towards her. I don't know if she actually had more advisees than other professors. It seemed that she did. People were constantly seeking her out, and characteristic of her endless generosity, even as with as many students as she had, she also found herself kind of scooping up students who may otherwise be adrift. I happen to be in the latter category, and I guess I wanted to share some personal memories of my experience of Diane as an advisor, and I kind of want to say in advance, it feels strange, it feels self-indulgent in a way to talk about, I don't want to talk about me, I want to talk about Diane, but I can't think of how to meaningfully tell everyone about how she was as a teacher and advisor without doing so indulge me. So when Diane scooped me up, as it were, we were in many ways a perfect pair, and in many ways some kind of an awkward pair. My area of specialty, my geographic area of specialty is Thailand, which is a place Diane that's not her wheelhouse in particular. I had a brief career as an artist, photographer, before coming to grad school, and I was coming from a very different a different background than most students, and in a way this seems perfect, because who but Diane would be better than Diane to work with a student with a kind of artistic bent, and yet for my part I was hell-bent on becoming what I saw as a capital letters serious anthropologist, which for me that meant putting aside yeah, art and creative forms of expression and producing serious anthropological scholarship. And so much of my experience with Diane was her continually encouraging me to bring creative forms of writing, to bring visual art, to bring unconventional form to my work, which I resisted for a very long time before, of course, ultimately realizing she was absolutely right. And at the risk of feeling further self-indulgent, there's a particular passage, about a paragraph or so, in my dissertation that Diane was instrumental in ensuring stayed in it, that I'd like to share with you. And I'll talk a little bit more about why afterwards, but so as it happens, my dissertation is about mourning and grief and the processing of grief, and that's part of why I want to share this. Sorry, the context here is my dissertation is about the death of the King of Thailand, which following that there was a year of national mourning where the whole country was engaged in various kinds of mourning ritual. That's what I'm writing about. And during this year, a close friend of mine and in my circle of friends in Thailand, a close friend of ours died suddenly. And we all found out about his death after, like 2 weeks after the fact. His family had kind of kept the news private, already had a funeral, and so it was the whole process was sort of complete before any of us found out about it. And in this passage I'm going to read, I'm talking to a friend in these circles, and this is the day that we all found out that May, that's his name, May, a friend of ours, had passed away. After our chuckles faded into a brief silence, I asked, "Hey, did you hear about May?" "Yeah," he said, my friend. "Yeah," he said, "it's fucking sad." "Yeah." After a reluctant pause, I continued, "It's just so crazy. It's almost hard to believe with the timing and the funeral." I trailed off. I kind of explained the circumstances I just said to you. My friend says, "I know, it's fucking sad, but I don't know what else to say about it. It's just too much right now. It's just too much." "Yeah. Okay." Honestly, I'm not sure why I feel compelled to include May's passing in this story. I could point out that we were in the middle of a year of mourning for a king few had ever seen in real life, let alone known personally. I certainly felt a sense of incongruity in a year of the nation coming together to mourn the king, that here we were without a chance to come together to mourn a dear friend, who we all love, who many of us had known for over a decade. That contrast was apparent to me at the time, and yet, to whatever extent it's true, I didn't, nor I'm sure did any of our friends, feel any sense of resentment about it. Grief for the king was equally genuine, just different, and his mourning was no less essential. I could say something about how the contrast between the two makes so clear the importance of mourning. I could say something about tying this to my dissertation about the importance of coming together in loss, whether as a nation or a community, a family, or otherwise disaggregated queer kin. All of those things would be true, but I suspect all of that would be bullshit. It has nothing to do with the contrast with the king at all, and nothing to do with the scholarly aims of this dissertation. Maybe it's just that I still feel robbed of the chance to mourn. Maybe I wish I had seen him one more time before he died. Maybe I just miss him. Maybe, for all the sense theologians and monks, psychologists and anthropologists, kin and community try to make of it, death is just a little too much to wrap one's mind around. And grief is just hard. Sorry. I initially submitted this in some very early draft of a chapter to Diane, and it was like, and kind of immediately wanted to take it out. Diane loved this piece, and insisted that I keep it in. I think because she knew that what I was, well, I should say this. This is precisely the kind of erasing of any boundary between scholarship and kind of personal scholarship, art, personal experience. I mean, this is, for Diane, all of these things were more than connected. They were kind of all different facets of a way of living and being in the world that for me, this was like, no, this is embarrassing. I should not put this in my dissertation. For her, it was the fact that I didn't even know exactly why I was doing it that was no like that's all the more reason to include it. And yeah, I guess I don't know how to say it. This is the kind of unconventional thinking that or just life that she wants people to bring into their work that many of us, myself especially, was really reluctant to. The other reason I wanted to share this was because this would, like, writing this and including it was a way of, it was a way for me to work through grief, a way for me to mourn, and in particular, in a way that I think may have some resonance here, to mourn an untimely and unexpected loss, which is a very different thing. And coming to acceptance of any death is difficult, just all the more so when it's sudden. And I mean, as I wrote, grief is hard, and if there's anyone here, yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. If there's anyone here who's finding themselves struggling a little bit with coming to acceptance, like, please know that that is A-okay. I mean, I still constantly, at least a few times a week, I have these moments where I'll be reading something or thinking about something that reminds me of Diane, and I'll have this thought like, oh, I can't wait to tell Diane about this. And then, then sometimes what follows is a moment of sadness. Sometimes, quite frankly, I'm still mad. Like, this sucks. And I wanted to share that because I suspect many people here may occasionally still struggle with feelings like that, and I think Diane would also want us all to feel that that is okay. Now, I feel like I've been talking a little too long, but I certainly don't want to end it on that note, so let me share one more story about Diane as an advisor and mentor before passing this on. So in the process of writing my dissertation, I'd say 6 months into it, Diane, in a meeting with Diane, she told me she had noticed I was using the phrase, we have to come together, quite a bit, or this was coming up a lot in my writing. So the people in Thailand I was talking to were saying we have to come together to mourn the king. It was in the news media there. I was even using this phrase, come together. I think I used it in this actual passage here. Like, it was coming up a lot, and Diane asked me, hey, you seem to be using this phrase, come together, quite a bit. Is that important? Is that something you should be looking into? And you're right, is that maybe like an angle here that you should be thinking about? And I, like an idiot, immediately dismissed the idea. I said, no, I mean, it's that Thai people are always talking about coming together, like, oh, we have to come together for this, we have to come together for that. There's nothing specific about this, like, specific to that about this situation. There's nothing specific to mourning about that, or like, they just, it's not important. And I'm kind of chuckling here because, as any anthropologist in the audience will tell you, I just outlined exactly the reasons that it is, in fact, important. And so Diane sort of said, okay, all right, well, and I kept on writing. the phrase would keep coming up. I'd get drafts back from her with her notes where she'd like underline the phrase, write a little smiley face in the margins. Or I'd say the phrase, come together in a meeting with her, and she'd be like, And I guess let me just say here, so Diane's area of specialty is not Thailand. It takes both an incredibly astute anthropologist to kind of see the importance of this in a context she's not, like all she's got is what I'm giving her, and she's seeing the importance of this. Like that takes a sharp mind. But more than that she immediately saw the importance of this idea of coming together and yet didn't push it on me. That speaks to her, just how wonderful of a mentor she was. She knew how to lead me to the right conclusion on my own terms rather than push it on me. And that's a hard thing to do. So yeah, it will come as no surprise to anyone that coming together turned out to be very important. And that's also something I've been thinking about in the context of today. And like, okay, anthropologically, we're not supposed to just like make all of these wild universal claims, but if grief is just hard, then coming together is just good. And I'm really happy to be here with all of you, and that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Sorry.
Ben Nelson.
I'm Ben. I'm Diane's nephew, and I just wanted to talk about what she was like to me, when she was here. And I always called her Tia because I was aunt in Spanish, and I'm half from Argentina. So she'd always take me on long walks in the woods and point out things to me and my brother Lucas, like wildlife, tracks, I don't know, bones even. And I don't know, sycamores, oaks, just trees. And we'd walk around the university, listen to the bells, like we do a lot of stuff together. And yeah, she was always really happy, really nice. She like never a dull moment. She encouraged me to go to my horse camp, not my horse camp, but horse camp, which I've been doing for 3 years by now. She introduced me to the Narnia series. She'd read those to me. She'd like act out voices and stuff. She'd always make you feel like you were the most important person ever, except for this one time when we were at a march and Madonna was there. And she ditched me and my dad to go see Madonna. But apart from that, she'd get us fireworks on the 4th. She'd buy us ice cream. She'd take us ice skating. And in my future, I'd like to carry her joy and love of life with me later. Yeah, that's like pretty much all I want to say. I'm not that sure how to wrap this up. So that'll do, pig.
Fernando.
I guess I should explain a little about this umbrella. I've lived for off and on over 52 years in New Orleans, and so wherever I go, I bring a little New Orleans with me. And the jazz funeral starts out somber on the way to, and then plays joyful music on the way out. And regardless of whether you're going in or coming out, there's always a dude or dudette leading the band and carrying an umbrella. And as I understand it, initially the umbrella was just a functional utilitarian thing, you know, guard you from the sun and the rain. But in New Orleans, we like things spicy and jazzed up, so more and more elaborate decorations were put on the umbrella. And so I did this one in honor of Diane, since she was Daisy in Little Abner in high school. I did the Daisy theme. In late August of 1989, I arrived at Stanford as a first-year PhD student in English. And in my orientation packet was an invitation, meet and greet, all first-year PhD students from all disciplines. And so I decided to go, mostly looking for free food. And there I met Diane Nelson, who was also mostly looking for free food. They didn't have any. So we hit it off, and we went to dinner at the little restaurant on campus that night, and we became lifelong friends. When I arrived in the English department, I also made 3 other lifelong friends who knew and loved Diane very much and are unfortunately not able to be here. So I'm kind of their emissary today, and want to say a little bit from each of them. Carlos Rodriguez wanted me to especially mention Diane's performance of Justify My War, which was right after Bush invaded Iraq for purportedly having weapons of mass destruction. So Diane, of course, being a Madonna fan, took Justify My Love and made it Justify My War. She strapped on this humongous missile, and and at the end, the missile actually exploded, shooting out tiny little American flags. And I'm pretty sure she consulted an engineer in order for that to happen safely and effectively. My friend Susan Vanderborg remembers Diane's smile like a benevolent tracking beam. You know, she's a Trekkie. Radiating love, humor, and playfulness. And of course, we've all witnessed that. My friend Rob Latham remembers analyzing and discussing Twin Peaks, the old David Lynch series. We all got together on a regular basis to watch Twin Peaks, and they loved it more than I did, actually. I thought it was just weird. But he also remembers weekend trips from Palo Alto over the foothills into Santa Cruz, just for the beach. And for the original trips, the initial trips, Diane was with us, and eventually she moved there, so we had to go visit her. He also remembers, and this has been kind of touched on already, how interdisciplinary she was. He was in a program called Modern Thought and Literature, and yet he did several reading groups with her where the disciplines were multiple, just all over the place. I remember all of these things and more from our Stanford years. She recruited me on more than one occasion for her protests. One time I was arrested in front of my class for teaching subversive material. She barged into the classroom, I remember, with two burly guys and barking orders and scaring the bejesus out of my students and me, and she hauled my ass out of there. On another occasion, I was smeared with fake blood and asked to lie on the pavement in the hot sun with a bunch of other dead bodies, while Diane, of course, manned the bullhorn and articulated the protest. I wouldn't do that for just anybody, trust me. And yet there were occasions, frequent occasions, where I would just run into her in the quad or something, and she would make me laugh until my belly ached with her so jokes. I don't remember them specifically, but probably a lot of you do remember some of her so jokes. She was very good at telling them. After Stanford, I eventually went back to New Orleans, where I was living prior to Stanford, and I left academia. Nevertheless, Diane never stopped being my friend. She always came to visit me, sometimes under the guise of a conference or giving a paper so that the college would pay for it. But anyhow, other times she would come just to visit me. And how honored was I to host Diane Nelson, my goodness. And of course, she was ever the anthropologist. I remember she came not even a year after Katrina in 2006. And she interviewed everyone from taxi drivers to vendors to wait staff to just random people on the street with always benevolent curiosity. She wasn't like a probing just to probe. She genuinely cared for these people, and she wanted to know their experiences. On another occasion, she came to visit me during St. Patty's Day, and she cornered a bagpiper and quizzed him for about 15 or 20 minutes about how did he learn to play it, why did he choose the bagpipe, was it difficult. I thought for a moment that she was actually going to take a lesson from him. This was pre-pandemic, but even so, sharing the mouthpiece was probably not a good idea, and she didn't do it. On another occasion, we went to the opera, and as I recall, she'd never been to an opera before. We went to see Mozart's Magic Flute, and of course, with her singing background, she thoroughly appreciated the vocal acrobatics that were being done on stage. And for the final curtain call, amidst the bravos and the bravas from the New Orleans audience, Diane ululated for her favorites. Ululation, I wish I could do it, but it's that trilling, high-pitched sound that, yes, you can do it, you're her sister, you can do it. So I don't think the New Orleans opera crowd had ever heard that in that setting before. It was priceless. In each of her visits to New Orleans, we always had to do beignets because, of course, Diane had that infamous sweet tooth. She loved her sweets, and she loved the beignets. And for those of you who don't know, beignets are kind of like donuts, but they're square, and they're pillowy, kind of hollow inside, but they're covered with like almost a 1/4 inch of powdered sugar. And a lot of it falls on the plate, so you're supposed to scoop that up, too, and eat that. The last time I saw her was in the fall of 2020. Mark and Diane drove down to visit me and to do other things in the city, but they visited me. And it was during the height of the pandemic, and so I was cheated out of a proper hug and a proper kiss for the last time that I saw her. But she left me with one new tradition. After dinner one night, she ordered bananas Foster, which is icky sweet with lots and lots of brown sugar, and it's flambéed, and it's served over ice cream. And so I recently returned to that restaurant, and I hardly ate anything else because I was holding out for bananas Foster. I will miss her visits. I'll miss her annual holiday newsletters that usually came in February or March. I'll miss her inquisitiveness. We all like to talk about ourselves to a certain extent, but more often than once I had to say, enough about me, what about you? I suspect she knew a lot more about each of us than we knew about her. 10 days before she passed, I turned 70. And she made damn sure that I had a birthday card in my hands on my birthday. I'd like to read a little bit of what she wrote to me. I'm so glad you've made it so far. Time is getting more and more precious for me, and I love that my dear friends are living so well into futures. I'm so grateful for our friendship, more than half of my life. From her Caring Bridge posts, it seems to me like Diane approached death with curiosity, wonder, and a sense of adventure, exactly the way she faced life. Thank you, Mark, for asking me to speak.
Jackie?
It's a sweet and deep honor to be asked to share words with you today. I need to tell you, though, that Diane is not yet a memory in me. I still talk to her. I still sing to her. So I stand here with you, only just starting to learn the feeling of abiding grief. Only at the beginning of a forever sorrow. So I ask you to bear with me as I try to throw a rope of words across an abyss, a break in the heart of things that I can hardly bear. A friend and beloved of Diane's told me there are no rules for speaking at such an event, including that you can wipe your nose constantly. Only one. I brought one. Only one rule: to be real. So I tell you, I'm really just feeling that I wish Diane were here. And she was here. I want to tell you that. Less than 2 weeks before she died, but we didn't know that then, we came to the farmer's market, held here every Saturday. I had flown in on Friday in mid-April, after she asked me to visit sooner rather than later. And she said, let's go to the farmer's market tomorrow. And we did. I pushed her in the walker, and we bought a basket of fresh strawberries and cheese, and each flavor of sweet potato donuts. And she took a small bite out of each one. We bought bread and more cheese, and she said, right here, tonight, we will burn the beehives. And we did. That night, under a full moon, bellies full of fruit and bread, except for Diane, who couldn't eat much, we dragged the beehives from the garage where they were stacked. The beehives so many of you know Diane tended for years with care and with joy. We carried them into the backyard, and for hours, Diane and Mark and Karen and I made a bonfire of the beehives. The old wax in each frame melted quick and wild in the heat, and the flames grew 6 feet high and almost tipped the lower branches of the tree. Diane was glowing the whole night, Mark said, and how he hoped, against hope, it would last. Like many of us, I was dazed by how quickly we lost Diane. My mid-April visit was just after the doctors had told her she had less time than they had thought. That Sunday, Easter Sunday in the Christian calendar, she told me she was hearing music memories all morning. Of death, where is thy sting, she said. That morning I asked her carefully if she knew what she wanted in the time she had. She replied several hours later in the afternoon, and the first thing she said was, I want time to say goodbye to my friends. She did not have that time. She was in hospice 5 days later. But I want you to know how much she wanted it. And all of our unspoken words for her, that last touch or sight of her face, there was not enough time. But I think, really, as I watched her burn the beehives which she loved, in a fire which she helped build, under a moon that she knew well, I learned that Diane understood endings more than I. She told me here at the farmer's market from her walker that she knew it sounded strange, but when she was given the news in February, she wasn't that surprised. She grew up in a nuclear world. She'd been waiting for the other shoe to drop. I know it's strange, she said, but I'm not that upset. Diane, the diva of the luminous smile, the expert tender of kindness, and a radically open heart, she reckoned more profoundly than most of us with the aftermath of state violence and the search for broken and buried human bones. She knew that lives ended, sometimes brutally too soon. She knew that death is not just. And she forever gives us, her beloveds, an exemplary way to walk into the fire of our own ending with more beauty than fear. And she forever gives us reason to care that some things don't end, that stories don't end. Diane kept stories going in all her work, in all her friendship, in all her teaching. She strengthened, harvested, unburied, created, and tended as scholar and lover and poet, stories. Her stories keep going, and we are sharing them here, and I am so grateful for that. My last words are connected to a gift she gave me, a book called The Lost Words, a book I know she also gave some of you, and that she read as a story to Lucas and Ben. They are meant as last words for Diane, but she also gave them to me in a spell song written by others for many, including us here today. You have walked through the world with care, my love. You have sung the things you see. You've let new names take a root and thrive and grow. And even as we stumble through Macher's sands eroding, let the fern unfurl our grieving. Let the heron still our breathing. Let the selkie swim us deeper. Oh, my sweet June bloom of sister. even as the hour grows bleaker, be our singer and our seeker. And when every hope is gone, let the raven call you home.
Arturo?
To Mark, in particular, for his invitation to be here today and speak, to the entire Nelson family, to Erica, to Brian, to Lucas, to Ben, who spoke so wonderfully, and of course, all of us who knew Diane, who are here today. And when I was thinking about what to say, I thought, what I felt, that I wanted to find inspiration in Diane's own words. So I looked at some of her work, her books, which I read. I went back to some of that work. And of course, I found they are a wonderful way to begin that I will tell you in a minute, because of course she was present in what she wrote. And so 2 episodes very briefly, one from her book, Who Counts, and one from the Kerin Bridge blog, one of her first entries in the blog. So the book Who Counts is about, the subtitle is The Mathematics of Death and Life After Genocide in Guatemala. And in that book, the book starts with chapter -1. Chapter -1. It doesn't start with the introduction, it doesn't start with chapter 1, chapter -1. And of course, from the get-go, she wanted to tell us that counting is about life. It's crucial to life and death. Who counts, what counts, how we count, crucial to life and death and politics, in the context particularly of genocide, but in everyday life. So -1, starting with -1, was also, I think, her way to tell us that we don't have to think about life or live life linearly. Life is never linear, we all know that. And that there are many other ways to count and to think about what we do. So the book starts by recounting the over 200,000 deaths, mostly of indigenous, Mayan indigenous peoples and peasants in the near 4 decades of counterinsurgency, military counterinsurgency against the revolutionary insurgency going on in Guatemala, in which again indigenous people played a central part. And then at some point, before I say that, at some point I forgot to say that, because not everybody knows me, that I knew Diane as a wonderful friend, as a colleague, and also as a sister in the struggle for radical social change in Latin America. And this is about social change in Latin America. So she says that, she reports that during that war, everybody lost at least one person in their extended family. One person in their extended family. Many families lost almost all the family, all their relatives. And then she says, so everyone is -1. So everyone is -1. So we are -1 today. We are -1. But not only that, because as she continues to say, this mathematics of subtraction is not the only way to think about life. She quotes somebody in Spanish. Let me see if I find it. La matemática sustractiva no tiene que ser la ley de la vida. The mathematics of subtraction doesn't have to be the law of life. And then she concludes, that points to the need to strive to represent, to make present again, both the aggregate and the particular of each -1. So that seems to me that we're here gathered to do exactly that. The aggregate, which is all of us who were touched, deeply touched in many cases, but her beautiful, kind, wonderful presence, as Catherine and Jackie and many others already mentioned, her amazing ability to be truly present to the moment, to the presence, to each of us. And in the particular, which is missing her, but not only that. Okay, so the second passage that I wanted to quote is from one of the first entries in her blog, The Caring Bridge, an amazing set of entries by her and by all of you here, unbelievable expressions of care and love and commitment to her. And it's about life and death. And it's from Robin Kimmerer, indigenous scholar. She talks about the allegiance to gratitude. And the quote goes as follows. Today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see that the cycles of life continue. So life is an unending cycle. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and with all living things. So now, let us bring our minds together as one, as we have greetings, as we give greetings and thanks together as people. Now our minds are one. So it is. Now our minds are one in this celebration. And we all know that life, especially from many indigenous traditions, but also from Western traditions like Buddhism, Taoism, that there is no beginning and end in an absolute sense, that life and death, birth and death are relative terms. And Diane knew that in a really, really deep way. And that's why maybe she, as people report, she wasn't really struck by the idea of dying, as many of us would be, but in a way harboring that idea as part of life itself. And we knew that because she was a weaver of life within the stream of life, and we felt that in each one of her strong abrazos, sometimes very strong for skinny people like me. You feel like, it hurts sometimes, literally. But that was her expression of her joy of life. And it seems to me then that that's what Diane herself has summoned us to celebrate today. Thank you.
Paula, Liz, and Amy.
I'm Paula. The three of us are here to talk about Diane and Guatemala, among other things, and we are so grateful for the opportunity to do so. Guatemala was integral to Diane's politics, profession, and passions. We three are standing in for those who accompanied the part of her life that was so deeply entwined with Guatemala. In the early 1980s, US out of El Salvador was the political moment. As an undergrad, Diane was attuned to Guatemala's less-known civil war thanks to her Wellesley professor, Beatriz Mans. Right after her 22nd birthday, Diane went to Guatemala, researching conditions in Guatemala's militarized indigenous highlands. Beatriz sent me too. Our chief asset was not being on a Guatemala Army blacklist following the bloodiest period of its civil war. Beatriz told Diane that Guatemala could get into your blood and stay there, and that turned out to be true. Diane wrote about being a gringa in Guatemala. Instead of shying away from the word thrown at imperialism, she embraced gringa, along with another tongue-in-cheek term, Sweet Sisters of Solidarity, coined by a novelist to poke fun at the earnest lefty do-gooders, women, almost always women, who worked untiringly on behalf of Guatemala's pueblo. Diane unpacked these laden and ambiguous terms. But the sisterhood she forged was unambiguous and spanned gringas and Guatemalans alike. It turned into decades of mutual support and caring love for people in Guatemala and for each other. We are three of Diane's many sweet sisters. Others are here today, too, bearing witness to how she was in Guatemala and just how beloved she was there. Two little stories. Diane respected kids and was at ease being the funniest and silliest grown-up in the room. Her nephews know. there to show the kids how rule breaking, or at least norm bending, was fun. Never mind the disapproving looks from Mom. I was often the one giving the mom looks because my daughter Sonia was privileged to have Diane as her godmother. Her fairy godmother. Diane would drop to the floor at a conference to play hide and seek under the table skirts. Fill a room with crumpled newspaper snowballs. Make the long car ride to Huehuetenango go quickly by recounting in detail, from memory, The Wizard of Oz, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Diane did this with other kids in Guatemala, bringing the right book or present, always ready to play. And the learning was reciprocal. Our first time in rural Guatemala in 1985, no one had told us the word coche does not mean car, as it does in other countries. Draw us a gato, said the kids, and we drew a cat. An árbol, we drew a tree. Now a coche, and we drew a VW bug. Ay, 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 what dumb gringas they must have thought. Not a carro, a coche. And they drew for us the most beautiful pig. Lesson learned. This will not surprise all of you. Diane sang in Guatemala. She was a founding member of our a cappella group the year she lived in Guatemala doing her dissertation research. We didn't just sing in bohemian night spots where Diane loved to put on makeup and let her hair down, but also to union workers, health promoters, a friend's friend who was dying of AIDS, and for a hunger striker in Guatemala Central Park. Singing in Guatemala was her praxis and her playfulness. We sang bilingual freedom songs, a cappella Olivia Newton-John, and many Latin American songs of struggle and hope. If you know the song, Gracias a la Vida, you can imagine how heartfelt it was when Diane sang it. In translation, it ends with, thanks to life, which has given me so much. It gave me laughter and it gave me tears. With them, I distinguish happiness from pain, the two elements that make up my song, and your song, which is the same song. Diane, you shared your song with all of us and remain with us forever. Thank you.
I'm Liz. I'm on the faculty of the University of Arizona, but more importantly, I'm a sweet sister of solidarity. Beatriz sent me to Guatemala in the 1980s, shortly after Diane and Paula. My friendship and collaboration with Diane and other sweet sisters spans the decades since. Diane and I often did field work together, sharing bus rides, mountain trails, gossip, joys, and sorrows, and Diane's special alchemy, which turned something hard, fieldwork in post-genocide Guatemala, into something that could also be sparkly. In the late 1990s, we were in Quiché together, not long after the signing of Guatemala's peace accords. Lots of people were writing about state violence in Guatemala, and Diane was too. But Diane did something else that no one was doing. She was attuned to how people were reconstructing their everyday lives in the midst of what was destroyed. I remember she would go into the tiny video parlors in villages and towns and watch movies with people. She chatted about Bruce Lee and dragon tattoos. She played foosball at the fair. She told jokes, and people reciprocated with more jokes and delight. All this did something important. State violence in Guatemala was not only about suppressing a revolutionary movement, it was about crushing people's visions for the future, trying to eradicate the idea that a different future was possible. Diane illuminated how people were reanimating their worlds and futures after genocide, even with ongoing violence and dispossession. In 2013, she wrote, I'm interested in the conditions of impossibility that both produce and limit what is imaginable in the post-war world, as well as what is enthusiasable. Enthusiasable, such a Diane Nelson word. This re-enchantment of life, which flowed to and from Diane and is captured in her writing, is why she's so beloved in Guatemala, I think.
Let's see. Thanks. Hi, I'm Amy. I was the last of the Chavas today. You know, Diane was really serious about jokes. She was really serious about jokes, and so I'm going to go ahead and tell a joke. I kind of can't believe nobody's told a joke yet. And so this one is I'm going to need your help if you understand Spanish, because nobody else is going to laugh. Okay. So it was a joke that in Cusco, Peru, Diane and her Quechua guide had been taking her through these amazing, enduring pre-Columbian buildings, and the guide had been saying, like, this was built by the Incas, and another, this was built by the Incas, and then they got to this crumbly post-Spanish invasion kind of church, and he said, this was built by the Incapaces. Laugh if you understand that. That means incapable. Incapaces, that's the pun, incapable. So, okay. Thank you. But today it's me that's incapaz, Diane. It's me that's incapable of understanding your absence while also experiencing your very strong presence. Maybe this is like the cipher that comes about from her early departure. It's kind of almost like a code to crack. It's up to us to make this tragic loss into something meaningful. How do we account for your absence? Perhaps what might seem like zero, an emptiness, a lack, might actually be an infinity, so powerful as to be everywhere and at all times, like Diane Nelson. I'm going to close with a quote from Diane's book, Whose Counts? Oh, Arturo, I'm so glad you didn't read this. I'm glad you read from the beginning. I'm going to read from the end. I close this genocide trilogy of books spanning 1985 to now, joining politics, reckoning, and aftermath, knowing that such violences tend to loop through time, less overcome than going latent in spells. All the numbers and the counting weave patterns we all inhabit through which we conjure and come to matter. We're going to just finish together with a poem. We're going to have to manage this. We'd like to end with this poem by Guatemalan poet Otto Rene Castillo. It's about life and possibility and a love for Guatemala, things that Diane embodied. The poem is called Communique. It was translated by our friend Deborah Levinson.
Nothing can stop this avalanche of love.
This rebuilding of people in their noblest of structures.
Nothing can stop the people's faith in the singular power of their hands.
Nothing can stop life.
And nothing will stop life, because nothing has ever been able to stop life.
Diane Nelson,
Presente.
My name is Michal Osterweil, and before I read a poem that is not one of the three, so we've snuck in one, and you'll recognize why in a moment, I just want to share that one of the things that happened for me on the morning before I knew that she had passed, but I woke up, and I actually was trying to keep sleeping, and Diane's face, like, with this gigantic smile, like the Buddha, literally was like in my face, and I was like, what's going on? I want to sleep. And she was just like, and I knew, but the happiness, the joy that she brought, and I didn't get a chance to physically see her before. Like, I kept saying, no, other people need to go, I'm local, it'll be fine. And I'm so grateful that she came to me even in that way. And the second thing I just want to say is that her diagnosis came in a really intensely challenging time for me, and I think for all of us on this planet Earth, right? And she died in the same 6 months as Thich Nhat Hanh and Bell Hooks, who are some of the greatest teachers of love. And one of the things that I've been learning more and more as I've grieved her death is that the heart that breaks open is the one that can hold the whole world. We need to let our hearts break. And it's a horrible lesson and the most beautiful lesson. So thank you, Diane. This is called When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like measlepox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending as all music does toward silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. That's Diane. So I don't know if we have time. So, yeah, Elise and Karen.
So I'm Karen Booth, and I met Diane when we were around 7 or 8 years old, and we were in the, and I kid you not, the cherub choir of the Oxford United Methodist Church. And she could sing, as many of you have noted. I could not, but I hung in there anyway. And then we reconnected some 30 or more years later. We were at the same high school, too. But we reconnected, instant recognition after about 30 years here in Chapel Hill as professors, as feminists, as activists. And I'd like to just quickly give some love to Lois Nelson, Diane's mother, Erica's mother, Brian's mother, who was also a fellow traveler and a good friend of mine as well. And I'm sorry she couldn't be here.
Hi, I'm Elise. I met Diane about 5 minutes after she arrived in North Carolina when she and Mark wandered into a UNC Progressive Faculty Network meeting, a strategy meeting, right after 9/11. The only person she knew in the room was Karen, and as they reconnected, we connected, and thus began a beautiful friendship. She sprinkled her magic stardust on me and changed me forever. She lit up my life, and her light will shine long, long, long after she is gone.
So we want to read the third poem that Diane requested to be read at her burial.
This poem, called On This Day, was written by Russian Jewish poet Leah Goldberg. Goldberg was an academic and a creative writer. She died in 1970 of cancer at 58 years old, 4 months before her 59th birthday. On this day, they break bread and gather the fruit into the basket. On this day, the sons return home and the daughters await them in the doorway. On this day, the clouds parade in the heavens to bring the tidings of blessed showers to wheat field and garden. And in the city, In the alleyways of marketplaces, there rise up the fragrances of butter and oil. There sparkle the scales of fishes. The wine brims. How can you die, my soul, on this day?
How can you die, my soul, on this day that is so lovely and full, that is so simple and overflowing, that is light, that is day like all days? How can you go down to rest before his tumult abates? How can you bid him farewell before his clamor grows quiet? How can you walk mourning before his merriment is crushed? How can you enter your eternal night before you have kissed the first star?
Diane Nelson, presente.
I know there are many others who could share and bring depth, and we could continue here. And the reality, on this plane at least, is the power is going to be cut out very soon. So, a couple of logistical invitation things before we formally close. You're welcome, for those who are local, to join at Weaver Street on the lawn, the beloved Weaver Street area, to commune and share stories and continue. And for those who have traveled from afar, Mark has welcomed you to his home for a meal. Also, the flowers that are here, we invite those who are going graveside to bring them and place them as an offering. I'm forgetting the name. QR code, thank you. It's so high tech, is on here, and it gives you the information for the location of the burial site to help you get there. And let me make sure I'm covering everything. Oh, yes. In the back, if you have not already visited the altar area with photos and memories, there is one table to leave direct messages to Diane, and these are going to be offered in the fire. Anonymous, go to town. And then there's a book for the family, and we really ask that you take a moment to sign and leave your blessing and any words. So, in closing, you know, I'm still alive, and I will say I don't know anything about the mystery of death, but I'm a student of the teacher of death. I've sat with many people in hospice care and loved ones who've crossed over. I'm very familiar with grief, as are many here. And as we know, grief is nonlinear. It's hard to grieve. It's uncomfortable in our society. We feel ashamed, or we don't know how to meet it, and it just grabs you, and it's really inconvenient. And in the Ayurvedic tradition, the sort of school of medicine out of the yogic tradition, they say that when the soul sheds the body and re-enter the continuum of life, the emotional pain, what contained the soul in the body, is then freed up. And suddenly, that soul is available to love and connect and share in ways that they couldn't while in the body. And the point of grief, according to this tradition then, is the invitation for us to let ourselves go into the depths of feeling that pain and loss, and to die into it, if you will, so that from the depths a whole new revelation of knowing and continuous living with the beloved can be born. And I find comfort in these words, and I hope they might comfort you, in that it's not for naught, right? It has a really profound purpose and path, and we can give ourselves to that and discover what Diane met so gracefully at the end, that, where else would she be but here, So thank you, thank you. I'd want to end with a final sort of blend of the loving kindness blessing that I know she loves so dearly. And this one is obviously for Diane. Diane, may you be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May you be filled with peace. May you know that you are loved and that your love is also received by all here, because you would have it no other way. May you be forgiven in any way you're asking forgiveness. May we be forgiven in any way we ask for forgiveness. May you be released from any binds of karma. All is whole, healed, and blessed. May you truly know the impact that you've had on all here and all those who aren't able to be here, and feel the profound gratitude for the way that you have shared yourself with the world so passionately, so fully, not just showing up, but in how you show up. You continue to teach us. May your path always be open. And to use her words in her final Caring Bridge post, may the mystery of the horizon bless you. We walk with you there, and may we meet there again one day. Thank you all so much. Blessings to the family, comfort to the family. So please do linger, enjoy the space. If you're hungry, head to Weaver Street, sign in the back, and dance first, because this is her song.
And it goes something like this. Fancy cars that go
till your soul is released. Know you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dreams till your soul is released. Beloved child, my heart is yours. Beloved child, go out and open doors with your love, with your faith, with your compassion, with your grace, oh, with your grace. Beloved child, you are the light of the world. Beloved child, go out, spread light to the world. Be strong, be kind, be brave. Know your mind, know that you're divine. Know that it's alright to be afraid. Know that you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dreams till your soul is released. Know you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dreams till your soul is released. Know you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dream till your soul is released. Know you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dreams till your soul is released. धन धन गुरु रामदास धन धन गुरु रामदास धन धन गुरु रामदास धन धन गुरु रामदास Know you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dream till your soul is released. Know you are loved. Rest in peace. Dream your sweet dreams till your soul is released.